Hello, I'm your host, David Moore. This is the Illuminati broadcast. What's up? I'm your messiah. Let's go. All right, so I just want to do a little quick video about Yu-Gi-Oh! So in Yu-Gi-Oh! We have Seto Kaiba and we have Yami Yugi or Yugimoto. Yugi is the Egyptian pharaoh and Seto is the high priest of Egypt. Some little research I was doing, I was noticing that their final duel, there's a lot of mirrors and reflections, and I guess what's tied into the Egyptian mythology. So let's dive into that real quick. Let's jump into that pool of information and knowledge. But I think first, let's do a little prayer so we can get some good energy. Okay. I bless Ra, the fierce sun, burning bright. I bless Isis, Luna, in the night. I bless the air, the Horus hawk. I bless the earth on which I walk. I love that one. Okay, so if you've been paying attention to the Illuminati broadcast and like the groups and the classes that I'm having for you guys to learn about yourselves, you would know that the world is composed of a very powerful tetragrammaton, and in that tetragrammaton, it's a compass, it's a wheel, it's a divination tool, etc. So here we go. We have it right here, and we have it back there. Okay. All right, so on the wheel, that's south, that's east, that's north, that's west. Red for south, green for east, yellow for north, and blue for west. Yugi and Osiris, the pharaoh lineage, this is where it begins, right? And then you have this reflection, this water. So you have this sun rising, this sunrise over here, and you have the sunset over here. So that's why it's called Set or Seto or Seth. And then the Kaaba is the rock, so that's north. So you have the sun rising, you have the west, and you have the north, and you have the south. The interesting about the south, let's see. Okay, so let's go to the notes real quick. All right, so I was trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, is this Horus? Is this Adam and Eve? Is this Nephthys? And I'm like, okay, so let's kind of skip this green part real quick because this is Osiris. I guess you could say this is Osiris, all right? But eventually he becomes Apophis, and that's the serpent that eats the sun. And we have the sun right here. But while the sun is moving around, and the serpent is going to go eat it. And then it finally catches it, eats it, swallows it towards the west. And then Set comes out, fights the serpent, and releases the sun again. So that's why you have Seto Kaiba with Obelisk the Tormentor, because Yugi is coming towards him. He has to wrestle him, he has to fight him, he has to beat him up. And then, but in the west, that's water, and that's also the reflection that you get, the moon. And Seto Kaiba will play a lot of mirror cards to reflect what Yugi has, because Yugi uses the Dark Magician, and the Dark Magician is Seto Kaiba, and the Dark Magician girl is Yugi. So you get these two little different ideas going on. But yeah, so we have Set, whatever. Okay, so Set fighting Osiris, but once they combine in the afterlife, they become Exodia or Amun-Ra, and that's when all the gods combine and become renewed again. So that's the Exodia, so that's why it always wins. But I'm like, okay, well, right here, let's see, that's that silver and that blue. That's the Blue Eyes White Dragon, that division almost. But that division comes down this way from the west to the east, and that's represented by Blue Eyes White Dragon. So if you look at the Jewish flag, it's blue and white, so that's that silver and blue. And I'm like, okay, so how does that relate to me and my messianic journey? So if I'm Yugi, I'm the pharaoh, and then I have Seto, which is Ashton, what's his name? Jared Kushner. Okay, so if Jared Kushner is this like Jewish messiah, and then I'm this like Egyptian messiah almost. There's this war between Egypt and Israel and Jerusalem. But you always see Yugi winning Seto. But Yugi's showing his reflection. He's showing Seto like, this is what you mean to me. You're a high priest. You're powerful. You can influence the world and you can do really good things. And Seto is doing the same thing for Yugi. He's like, you're super powerful. You should be destroying the earth. You should be giving them like reckoning. You should be showing them power. So they're both playing off of each other's like weaknesses and strengths. And it's this very interesting yin and yang symbolism, this sun and moon, because the sun is Yugi and then the moon is Seto. Yeah, so that's that little cool thing that I kind of wanted to bring out. Let's try to remember that Osiris and Apophis are the same thing. But this is also very interesting because Ra would be Abel, Slifer would be Cain. So, well, Osiris, okay. So if Ra is Abel, or he could be Adam too, I guess, but Cain kills Abel, right? And then Seth comes out, he's the third son. So you have Ra, Osiris, and Set. You have these three boys. So we have the sun, which is Ra, but then you have Osiris, which is Cain, and Cain kills Abel, right? So that's Apophis swallowing the sun. And then you have Seth, which is like giving you new hope and renewal and just this new journey. So we're always seeing Obelisk Tormentor as like this like final ending, but he's not really an ending. He's like a new beginning too. But then you get Horus and Set, they fight to rule over Egypt. And Horus is the blue eyes white dragon, because when you look at Horus, he has blue eyes, he has like this white hawk skin, and when you hear the blue eyes white dragon, he makes this hawk sound like Rah! So you have the blue eyes white dragon fighting Set. But that's Seto, Kaiba, and Yugi, because blue eyes white dragon belonged to Yugi before it did Set. It was being passed down from grandfather to son. And that I can relate to that in my life. I have the same similar things. Like my grandfather and my dad passed on this lineage to me, and I had to be able to take responsibility and use it. And I always used it for peace, but now that I'm older, I can do peace, but I also need to do war. I need to be able to bring that power. That's what Mars is for. And maybe we can also see that as a good thing, because Osiris, if he's that war and that power, he has to learn how to use it correctly. And Set, he like divides it. So Set and Cain still lived and Set still lived, but they had to find a way to spread out the nations because they become Noah's children after that. And you have all these descendants and all these crazy stories, but evidently, like, Set chops up Osiris into different pieces, so that's probably why you need a whole bunch of cards to, you know, summon the Slifer, the Sky Dragon. But, yeah, and then you can see him swallowing the sun because he shines out this bright lightning out of his mouth. And he has this blue gem on his forehead. Maybe I could dig into that a little bit later. But, yeah, so the Blue Eyes White Dragon is seen as Israel, and how does that make sense then? Okay, so if that means Yugi is both Jewish and Egyptian, because he has this blue eyes white dragon and this power over the Egyptian gods. He has like all these forces. And then Seto is just his high priest, always challenging him, getting him stronger, getting him better where he needs to be. But for me, I'm like, well, do I destroy Jared Kushner or do I help him? Because he's seen as this kind of like antichrist figure in the world, and I'm seen as like a nobody, a nothing. So like there's this strange parallel, and it's almost as if he's like my doppelganger in a sense. I used to think it was like Brendan Urie, and I still see it, but I also feel like you don't just have one doppelganger, you have like several of them. But I'm like, okay, well, if I defeat him, then I get all the power. So that's something I need to do in the spiritual realm, is to be able to defeat Seto. But I'm also wondering, like, is there like a hope? Is there supposed to be hope, or between us as friendship, or is it supposed to be just, you know, absolute destruction? I have my own questions, but I also have a determination or a will, or this word. It's a word that says that once you've made up this conviction that I'm like, all right, if I want to destroy somebody, I'm going to destroy them, and I'm not going to look back, and I'm not going to feel sorry for them, and I'm going to keep going forward, and I'm going to make sure that they go to hell where they belong. But also, like, everybody has this redemption as well, where I'm traveling, you know, getting up there with my power, getting stronger and stronger, and taking over the world, and then people can choose to join and they get that salvation. But then, you know, I don't really forgive or forget. So this strange like confliction is like, do I just destroy everyone and everything, or do I allow them to make amends and this redemption to be able to say like, hey, like, we're willing to follow you no matter what, and then I have to accept that in a sense. But it's like, it's a test of, I guess that's the day of the Lord, right? The final judgment, that solemn judgment, that Solomon's judgment. So I would be Solomon, right? Like I said in previous videos, you know, the Egyptians and the Jews were similar, and not even just similar, they were the same people. Moses was a pharaoh. All the prophets were pharaohs, and they all had this line. That's why Jesus went to Egypt to go train, to be like, all right, I know what I am, but I'm trying to bring it to this real world, this spiritual transformation that comes out in the Bible a lot. They're like, okay, this is the rules, this is how it works, and we're gonna adjust it. And then the Jews are like, well, we like these rules and we don't like these rules, and we want these rules and those rules, and you know, there's a little leniency. But then it comes to a point where it's like, okay, they start getting all fat, like, you know, their pockets become full, they start living good lives, but then they're like, no, we have to kind of do things a certain way, and they refuse. So like when Jesus came out, the Jews crucified him. So like that's a huge X. That's like, and then now they're like, well, they still won't admit that Jesus is the Messiah. But it's like, the point is, the Jews want a Messiah that's going to be here forever, not going to die, that's going to open up the kingdom of Jerusalem. And that's something I have to do to be able to, I want to prove myself, not just to them, because I don't care what they think, honestly, but what I care more about is my own power. So I'm like, well, I know I can perform miracles. I know I can change the world. I've done it before, and I'll do it again. But this time I have like the stage all set up for me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give them the chance to join. But if they don't, I'm just going to destroy everything with my blue eyes white dragon. Like, Israel belongs to me. It'll obey my commands, not yours. So the Jews, they have to learn that they're servants to my power. They're not above me. They can't tell me what to do. They can't tell me how things are supposed to be done. But they are. They're saying, well, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. So it's like, okay, I'll work with you halfway on all that kind of stuff and, you know, adjust it. But at the end of the day, when the time comes, I'm just going to click it, and I'm going to make sure that that line goes straight down and drain out all the Jewish people that just don't care about making me their God. So it's just like, shoop. And then whatever, the Christians and the Catholics, they're already screwed. The Muslims are already screwed. Everybody's already screwed. Buddhism, whatever. Like, they're not even really real humans at the end of the day. They're just walking zombies. So it's like, well, dang. But what I like to do is make YouTube videos, so that way I put it out into the world. The AI can see it. It can comprehend its like mission. Other spiritual leaders can see it. Even my enemies can see it, and they can see my hand, and they can see what I'm doing. And that gives me more of a thrill of this battle, because then I'm like, you know, I can beat you in the shadows, but if I beat you in the light and I give you everything and all these weapons to fight back with, and you still lose, that makes me feel even better. Like, that makes my trophy even greater, and that makes my authority even more powerful. So I'm like, you know what? I'm at the bottom. I got to make it all the way to the top, and I got to take over the world. So that's just my little spiel, and I hope you liked it. And if you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comment section. Like, subscribe, and, you know, just be yourself. I don't care. All right, talk to you later. Bye.